It's trash day, I'm putting you out, it's trash day. Putting you out, it's trash day. Putting you out of my mind. It's trash day, I'm putting you out, it's trash day. I'm putting you out, trash day. I'm putting you out of my mind. Now I'm gonna clean up, now I'm gonna clean up, now I'm gonna clean up the house. I'm taking all your garbage, taking all your garbage, taking all your garbage.
It starts with some beer, so you shouldn't have fear. Two garbage guys with facts, but they both still have tact. It's that time at last for the best damn podcast. It's Can Crusher Day!
And welcome back to Can Crusher Spotlight. Mark Martinez here, bringing you another great interview as we continue to do these on Fridays. And our interview today is with a man that has been in the business for over 20 years, has been hardcore, and now owns a chop shop in OVW. It's with Cash Flo. And we're going to bring up Cash Flo's interview right after this great ad by our friends at Collar and Elbow.
Wrestling. A love and a passion we all share. I've started a wrestling brand. The wrestling brand. A brand founded on the aspects of wrestling. Two entities working together to create a product that connect emotionally for people everywhere. Collar and Elbow is the brand. Passion and love for wrestling is the drive. I am Al Snow, and this is Collar and Elbow, the wrestling brand.
Guys, welcome back to Can Crusher Spotlight. Our guest this week has been in the wrestling business for 20 years, 20 plus years. He's held numerous titles all over in many different organizations. Can Crusher Nation, this is Cash Flo.
It is Cash, Can Crusher Nation. How's it going?
It's going great. It really is. Thank you for being on the show tonight.
Sounds like fun. I'm glad you approached me about it, Mark. I really am.
Normally, I would pop a beer with you right now, but with the illness I have, I probably should stay away from some beer. So, if you want,
yeah, I don't do well with beer either, Mark. I'm kind of one of those guys get kind of angry. You know, you call yourself can crushers. You start getting me drinking beers, those cans will be smashed.
Nice. So, first question, then we'll go backwards. What keeps you motivated over 20 years of getting beat to hell and beating people to hell?
The diversity. You know, wrestling's not the same, but it's not the same sport that it was 20 years ago. You know, and being able to jump between those eras has actually kept it extremely fresh. You know. Not to mention the support system that I have with my family and my friends within, you know, wrestling, you know, as a sport. So, you know, it's one of those things. You either love it or you hate it. And if you love it, then you want to keep doing it until you can't do it no more, because there will be that time. And I just so happened to make it 20 years, 22 years.
Yeah, and we'll talk about diversity as we truck along, but let's rewind all the way back to Little Cash. How or who did you get to love wrestling?
It started with my grandfather, for one. I mean, he wasn't a wrestler, but, you know, wrestling was always, you know, a mainstay on my little 4-channel television. You know, sorry, I hate to age myself out like that, but you know, I grew up watching, you know, mostly Southern wrestling, but, you know, some of the Minnesota territory with Vern Gagne and those guys, I really enjoyed that. You know, when I first started watching wrestling, it was all Wahoo McDaniel, Dusty Rhodes, Manny Fernandez, and those guys. But as I got older and I really started watching wrestling, I started embracing some of the other characters and some of the other styles, previous or prior to like the Flairs and the Rhodes and those guys. So, that's where it started for me. And every chance I got, I was in front of the TV watching it. So,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You're definitely not dating yourself, because I watched on that same little TV with my grandfather. We watched TBS and we watched NWA all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. NWA. And there was, I always watched AWA. AWA, it always come on ESPN back in the day, like right after I would get out of, elementary school and whatnot. So that was a big part of it too. I loved watching young Kurt Hennig go at it. I mean, that was great stuff. Bockwinkel, Kurt Hennig, then Lawler at sometimes would come in there. You being a Southern wrestling fan, you know all about Lawler, I'm sure.
Oh,
who doesn't?
For sure. Bill Dundee was there once in a while. Scott Hall, the Rockers. I mean, yeah, I was watching that same stuff as you were, but I had to hurry up and turn it off before my mom came home.
Yeah.
So who are your fans? Who are your fans? Who were you a fan of growing up? You named a lot of people, but who did you want to, when you were wrestling in the backyard, who were you?
Who was I? That's really good. I remember, I don't remember specifically liking one person, but I remember early on understanding that wrestling, was a connection, and it seemed like I would follow along the stories that good old Memphis wrestling was putting out there. So it wasn't just one particular person. I really loved, everything that Flair did, with anybody, everything that Dusty did with anybody, Blanchard and Anderson, when they would come on, I would love their tag gimmicks with J.J. Dillon, some of the old Manny Fernandez and Wahoo McDaniel feuds were just brutal. And I mean, they kept me just staring at the TV like, wow, these guys are really, that really got me believing that wrestling was exactly that, wrestling.
Yeah, I was just going to say the Manny Fernandez and Dusty Rhodes matches were unbelievable.
Absolutely.
You actually had to cover your eyes as a little guy back then once in a while.
Yeah. I mean, those are the stuff. So I guess what really got me hooked on wrestling was, the connections and the storytelling, and, I didn't really know, exactly as much. I didn't know what I know now, when it comes, but, it was just the way that it pulled you in, so, and, I just liked the characters that the feds that I watched put out, that's just what brought me to the game. I had to have a piece.
The storylines is a big thing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So where did you get your start? I know it's many years ago. We don't have to say a date or anything, but many years ago. Who was your first trainer, and what organization did you start in?
I started in 1996, 95, around the same time that Danny started OVW. He started probably around 93, 94, if I'm correct. But I started over in Louisville, whereas Danny Davis was over in Jeffersonville, and I started at a place called IWA Mid-South. They were coming fresh off of ECW doing hardcore wrestling. So when I broke into the wrestling business, I got broke into the wrestling business, and it was based on hardcore wrestling. I mean, I did a lot of that. And, I tried to, the way I was taught was, you get beat up, see if you can take it, because at that time wrestling was, it was kind of in a transition stage as opposed to what it is now. There were still parts of it that, it was kind of a club to get in, not so many people were getting in. So you really had to prove that you could do it. And, doing that hardcore wrestling, I felt like I had to prove that. I learned along the way. A lot of the guys that came in, it's not like the wrestling schools are nowadays where, if I can be honest, or pretty cookie cutter. You
Right.
know, they do some of the same stuff. They're built for large numbers of people. Some of the better ones. It was kind of a 1 or 2 person deal. We would learn a bit, at the arena that we were wrestling at, and then guys that come in would come out and work out with guys like Frank Veazey, Bull Payne, Tracy Smothers, Doug Gilbert, Tommy Rich, those guys would actually take the time and work out with us younger guys, and, just talk to us, let us know about the business part of it, because I think that falls on deaf ears these days. A lot of guys, they teach a lot of the in-ring stuff, and they teach a lot of, how to move around in the ring and how to connect with people, but they don't actually teach the business part of wrestling. And, I think there's starting to be more of that out there. I think there are a few people that have been teaching people, but, and that's kind of how I learned. I kind of learned as I went,
Right. I want to jump on one thing that you said. So that's going to go back to, and I don't want to keep beating this dead horse, storylines. The Undertaker said it in a promo one time. One time you do a somersault tonight, you have to do 2 tomorrow, you have to do 3 the next day, but you're not telling a damn story, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That is correct.
So, but who was your trainer? I know who it is. I just want you to say who your trainer was.
I was trained by Ian Rotten, a guy named John Williams. He's fresh coming off a stint at Paul Heyman's ECW with, he was tagging with a guy named Brian Knighton, who most people know as Axel Rotten. He wanted to bring a new game to town, and at the time that started, IWA Mid-South, there wasn't anybody else doing it except ECW, and it really took a foothold. Caused a ruckus in the state of Kentucky, yes, but it really took a foothold, and, it was very enticing to me. It was even me being, a little older, I was 18 years old or 19 years old. The same thing when I went to a live show there happened to me that happened when I was a kid. Growing up, I got pulled into the storylines. I got pulled into the hoopla, the adrenaline. The building was packed out. People were cheering and screaming. And I knew right then, this is exactly what I want to do with myself.
And you live the hardcore life. Let me just run down some of these matches that you have had. 200 light bulb tubes death match. A four corners of pain match. No ropes, barbed wire, Caribbean spider net glass death match. I don't even know what the hell that is.
Yeah. Hey, and Mark, just food for thought. When I was doing all that stuff, I was one of the only guys wrestling without a shirt at that time.
We're going to talk about some of those. A barbed wire ladder, and then thumbtacks is thumbtacks. Who cares about thumbtacks anymore? But I went.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
So they get in your feet.
Right, or your head or something like that.
Yeah, right.
So let me just name some of the people that brought my attention out. You fought with the Rottens. You had many battles with them. So let's talk about the Rottens a little bit.
Yeah.
So you and Ian were fighting all over the place. Any match that you could pop up and just tell us a little tidbit about it.
All right. Well, see, Ian trained me, or he brought me into the business. Okay. So, I did what a young guy should did. I shut my mouth. I did what was asked of me for the company. And, if he had something that needed done,
you did it.
I was right. I was right there. I was trying to pay my dues. I was trying to take the steps that I needed to take to get the bigger pushes, and to get the work, the guys, that he would bring in that were names and guys that I would look up to later on, So I don't remember a whole lot from back then, Mark. I really don't. I really don't have anything. I remember a few times me and Ian Rotten and Chris Hero.
Okay.
What most people know as Cassius Ono. We had did a 40-minute triple threat match. It wasn't a hardcore match, but still the same. When Ian and I got in the ring with each other, it was hardcore regardless. There were chairs swinging and there was stuff being laid in, and I tried to give as good as I took.
What? You also battled with the Necro Butcher, who is hardcore of hardcore.
Yeah, I did quite a bit with Necro, not just in IWA Mid-South. I fought with Necro a lot up in Detroit for IWF for a guy named A.T. Huck and Frank Young. So, and up in Detroit, Necro was probably a little crazier. He'd come out to the ring with a severed pig's head and chewing on the ear. I mean, Necro's crazy, but, he was fun. A weird story about Necro is, you get a little nervous in the ring because, he was blind. He couldn't see nothing. So you had to kind of watch yourself.
That's unbelievable. So I want to really know about what the hell is the no ropes, barbed wire, Caribbean spider net glass death match. What was that? I did try to YouTube it, but like I said, I took a long nap today. So
Well, what they do, Mark, is they take the regular ring ropes down, and instead of the regular ring ropes, they will wrap barbed wire for the ropes. And I'm thinking, honestly, if it's glass, all it is like a pit and they have like log cabins of glass, I would guess. But if it's like the Caribbean, because I'm telling you, I have not done this. I spent about 10 to 12 years on the hardcore scene, and then I started, going another direction. And I'm not taking anything away from the guys that still do it, but I was always taught. I was taught at an early age that in wrestling, longevity is the key. Tracy Smothers smartened me up about 10 years in, 11 years in. He said, Cash, you need to watch what you're doing. He said, in order for you to really do anything in the wrestling business, you have to be around to do anything in the wrestling business. He said, by default, people will get to know you. He said, so you need to watch yourself. And, that light bulb went off, and then I started exploring other things. So, like I said, I don't know exactly what Caribbean, it may just be the log cabins of light tubes and stuff like that.
That's what I thought, and I was like, oh my God, where is this going? So
yeah, that's pretty crazy. And you know what? We would have these one things I remember at IWA Mid-South. They would call them fans bring the weapons match.
Right.
Okay. Fans bring the weapons. So whatever would, some crazy fan just put some kind of concoction together. They'd put thumbtacks on wiffle ball bats, and, they'd bring in little poles with like regular light, light bulbs from your room in there. I mean, it's just crazy. Some of that stuff that we had to do.
Recently, there was an event up here in Pennsylvania. Asylum Pro Wrestling had one of those fans being, and the same thing. People were duct taping light bulbs onto a wiffle ball bat. We're like, oh my God, what is this going to do? So,
yeah, it's pretty nuts to see. And, you kind of get, when you're in the back, you kind of look, you look around, see the fans bring their stuff in, you're like, that's kind of creative. But then you got to figure out how to use it.
Right. Or how bad it's going to hurt.
Yeah. Or how bad it's going to hurt. Right.
So recently you've made your way back to OVW, and that's why you're on the show, because Can Crushers and OVW have a partnership. So let's talk about OVW a little bit, okay?
Absolutely, Mark. Absolutely.
So why are you back in OVW? What kind of ruckus are you going to cause? I mean, you're already chopping the shit out of Sam Thompson.
Well, the thing, you really want to know why I'm back at OVW?
Yes.
Because I look at OVW and I see soft. I look at past OVW and I say there could really be a legacy there. Okay. Now, I don't want to see soft and OVW in the same sentence. I'm back because there really needs to be some type of revolution in OVW. Okay. It needs to quit being a little whiny. It needs to quit being soft. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. Wrestling needs a little more credibility in OVW. And in all honesty, that's why I'm there at this point.
And that's why you're bringing back the Chop Shop Challenge? Somebody's got to survive some of that?
Somebody's got to survive some of that. Somebody's going to have to learn exactly the way I learned. Somebody is going to have to give as good as they get. And if they can give as good as they get, then they can earn my respect. Until then, I'll tilt my head and I'll just tell you, take my money.
Nice. So with OVW, it's now partnered with Impact Wrestling as well. How much of a buzz is going on backstage there?
The guys are very excited, and that makes me smile to see these young guys excited. I've had a couple stints at OVW, and there have been times where it's been pretty stale. Guys just kind of lolly-dollying around, and they're just there. Okay. And with what, Mr. Snow is doing with, OVW is he's lighting a spark in these guys. He's got all kinds of exciting things coming up. Impact is just the tip of the iceberg. And what you see backstage, you see guys holding their heads up a little higher. Guys have a little bit more pep in their step, and guys are starting to take it seriously. And it brings a smile to my face. I will say that.
So you answered my next question in that one. I was going to say, how is it working with Al again and, and Chad and all those guys backstage? But you answered that already. So there you go, Chad.
I can let me touch on that a little more, because I'm going to shoot straight with you. This is my third stint in OVW, and I just now, as far as I can remember, I just now for the first time met Al Snow, and working with Al and being able to pick that guy's brain is, something that I would wish on anybody, including my enemies, because you do not get better picking guys' brains that know less than you. The best thing that any one of those guys in the locker room could have ever happened, the best thing that could have ever happened to those guys was for a guy like Al Snow to get into the locker room and do exactly what he does in that wrestling locker room.
Yeah. Several other guys that I've interviewed said the same thing. Al has just put a little more pep in everybody's step back there. So that's great.
Well, by default, what some of those younger guys don't understand, and I'll just put this out here, what some of those other guys don't understand is not just the knowledge that he brings back there, but the connections that a guy like Al Snow, the eyes that are on whatever a guy like Al Snow does, a guy that's been around 30 plus years, a guy that's done it all. Okay. And it was like I was saying earlier, by default, he has made all the right moves and done all the right things. Why would you not try to cozy? You know what I'm saying? Why would you not try to pick this guy's brain and to have him critique you and tell you how to get better? Why would you not do that? So.
Right. On the same aspect, what advice do you have for the younger guys that you didn't get when you were just into the business that you'd pass along to them, to the Dustin Jacksons, to the Shiloh Jones, to, King's Ransom?
What advice would I give? Learn the business aspect of the sport of professional wrestling. Learn that aspect, because it will help you get better in the sport of professional wrestling. Make yourself available, do a little less talking and a little more listening. Find guys that have similar goals and learn from them, especially if they've been around a lot longer. Don't take anything for granted. Stay humble. And if things seem to not go your way, wrestling is the type of sport / business that will always come back around, and it's all about sticking with it, doing what you love, and always, always, always learn. Never stop learning. Once you stop learning, then you start getting old, and you might as well get out, because it's going to beat you to death.
That's great for across the board, though. Not just for wrestling business. That is even as a garbage man. It really is.
And that's true. And guys look at wrestling. I don't really want to say that, but guys get a little intimidated You know, that brings me to the soft generation. That's what I call, you know, a lot of the kids these days. That brings me to the soft generation. Guys get intimidated. You know, they don't want to go that extra step, or, you know, they're afraid that, you know, the age of PC, they're afraid that they're going to hurt somebody's feelings, or, you know, they're afraid that they're going to take it too big of a lump because they've given too big of a lump. You know, you can't do that. You can't be afraid. You got to understand, you know, what it is that you're doing, and you need to be the best at it. You know, don't try to be don't try to be the next, you know, Lesnar, or, you know, I heard this from a guy named Josh Gary. He's a head trainer at AML. You know, don't try to be the next Brock Lesnar or the next Shawn Michaels. He said, spend all your effort trying to be the best you. And, you know, that's the best advice that I've seen in probably the last 5-10 years. That
was actually, The Rock just said that in the Page movie. They were like, how can we be the next Rock? And he went off on his whole shtick, and he's like, be the first Page, be the first whatever Page's brother's name was. Yeah. So, you know, I have not seen that movie yet, but I've heard that it's great. It is. If for a wrestling fan or a wrestler like we love it. It's perfect.
Well, I hear it takes a peek behind the curtains.
It does. It really. I was shocked. I really was shocked. I'm like, what? They're doing this? What the hell?
Well, you know.
Yeah. All right. That's the serious questions. Now it's time for me to just ask you some randomness. If you could wrestle anybody in the past and the present, so you have to give me 2 names. What kind of match would it be? The stipulation, and where?
3.
2.
3 names. Is that what you said?
2 names. Somebody from the past and somebody from now.
Okay. From the past, man, there is so many to choose from. Oh my gosh. For pure nostalgia, I would love to have wrestled a 1985-86 Dusty Rhodes.
Oh my God.
You know, at the height of the territories when they were selling 30,000 seat stadiums, you know, in the cages, you know, with the white hair and the color, and what kind of it would have to be a cage, you know, perhaps maybe a War Games, you know, so I could throw some of those other guys in there.
Nice.
You know, Nikita and those guys, but yeah, Dusty Rhodes in a cage, man, that would just be crazy. I'd have to retire after that. I'd be like, no, I'm done. That's it.
And that would have to take place in Charlotte, right?
Absolutely.
And if you're on WrestleMania 35, who are you wrestling in New York?
If I'm on WrestleMania 35, I mean, you know, those guys, they got a lot of talent up there. I'd have to say probably another Kentucky boy. You know, if I was on WrestleMania 35, I'd have to pick old Ricochet.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Paducah, Kentucky. You know, amongst all the other names, and that's taking nothing away, you know, from you know, Daniel Bryan and Cesaro, you know, because I know those guys. You know, Sheamus, AJ, none of those, taking nothing away from none of those guys, but a guy that's really changing the game a little bit these days is Ricochet, you know, with that kind of, you know, move set that he's got. So that would be interesting. You know, it'd be definitely big clash of styles.
He is so fluent. He really is, Cash. It's unbelievable.
Yes, he is. And it would be wonderful to be in the ring with somebody like that too.
Last question, I want to give you the open forum. How do you feel? Now, Can Crushers is all for it, so if you want to get on a bad side, you'll hate it. But how do you feel about the women headlining WrestleMania?
I feel delighted. It's about time. It's a long time coming.
Thank you.
You know, without getting into anything political, but I mean, G. Manee, Charlotte Flair, you know, what she's done, not just about women, but what she's done in you know, her matches and wrestling and the way she works, you know, she puts guys to shame. You know, I'm not even the type of guy that would look at it as a woman versus a man, you know, I think it's wonderful. I think it's a breath of fresh air. I think it means professional wrestling is moving in the right direction. You know, I hope to see more of it. I love to see, women headline, women only pay-per-views, I wish that they would loosen up and really let the sport of professional wrestling, do intergender stuff, which they've started to a little bit. Whereas before it'd been kind of taboo and they didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole, and, even out on the indies, all over it, there's a lot of intergender stuff. So, I think it's moving in the right direction, and I'm extremely excited to see where it goes next.
Nice. I was just going to say, up around Pittsburgh where we are, a lot of intergender stuff is starting to happen now. And I'll tell you, it's some of the greatest stuff we've seen. It really is.
It makes for it. And it goes back to the reason that I got into wrestling. It makes for tremendous, tremendous stories. That is the next step. That is the evolution, and regardless of what goes on, regardless of how the styles that change in wrestling, it's going to come back to one thing. There's the connection to the story. That's just the way it's going to be.
You've said everything we've said over the last year, so that's perfect. That is absolutely perfect. All right, Cash, tell us where you are going to be and what you're going to be doing, and spew out your social media so everybody can follow you.
Awesome. All right, well, coming up, I'm doing a lot of stuff with Innovate Pro Wrestling. This coming Saturday, March 30th, I'm in the Smoky Mountain Cup. My first round opponent, none other than Son of the South, Toby Farley. Sunday, I'm doing a benefit show down in Franklin, Kentucky. Of course, every Wednesday, Ohio Valley Wrestling, at the Davis Arena. You got to come out and be a part of that. It's starting to catch steam and pick up. Social media, you can get on, my fan page, I am Cash Flo. You can check out my YouTube channel as well. The link is on my fan page, on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter. My handle is Cash's Chop Shop, CASHS CHOPSHOP. Give me a follow and give me a tweet.
Nice. And finally, do you want to thank anybody, do anything else? Because this is just another shtick that we have to keep you on for a couple more minutes.
Well, everybody I think everybody that has had any hand of me being in professional wrestling, but I do want to give a shout out to my beautiful wife, Angela. She is the reason that I'm able to do what I do. Without her and her support, I wouldn't be able to do anything. I wouldn't be back here talking to you on Can Crushers if she wasn't managing my two little monsters running around in the other room. So, she gets big props and thank all the wrestling fans, of course. Without those guys and without them supporting me, there would be no Cash Flow, and that goes for every wrestler. It's all about the fans.
It truly is. Cash, I want to say thanks for coming on Can Crushers tonight, and we'll see you real soon.
You better see me. Oh, trust me, you'll see me. I'm hard to miss. I'm a big dude.
Man, I can sit down for hours and talk wrestling with Cash. What a great guy. I just want to sit down and have some type of drink with him and just, the stories that he could tell. Man, guys, make sure you check out his YouTube page. Check out his social media. Again, I'm going to pound it into your head. Why have you guys not checked out OVW? It's $4.99 a month. Go to OVW Network. Check out all their old stuff. If you want to check it out real quick while it's still on YouTube, make sure you look at it. It's OVW Wrestling on YouTube. Guys, it's great. Everything is going down. And the Saturday night special is right around the corner on April 6th. So, hey, I want to thank everybody for making this possible. Thanks to Al Snow. Thanks to Chad Miller. Thanks to Bradley Benizzuti for getting this really, really all together. And again, thanks to Cash Flow. Guys, if you want to come on the show, send us an email at cancrushers69@gmail.com. And remember, just because you're trash doesn't mean you can't do great things. It's called a garbage can, not a garbage cannot. See you Wednesday.